Hi, everybody. My name is Andrea Rossi, and it's a pleasure to be here with the IAM Tech Day European edition. Before we get into today's topic, briefly about myself. My name, as you can probably tell, is Italian. I'm Italian. I live in Italy, and you should know that my name is a quintessential, stereotypical name in Italy. So it's good for security purposes. But if you want to look about myself online, you should browse the company I've been working with, Novell, IBM, Cross Ideas, the company that I founded in 2011, and we sold to IBM in 14, and a few other companies. So as you can tell from the company names, I've been working in identity management, starting from the days where identity management was not even there as a definition. And I saw the transition from an IT automation tool to today, where we are building identity management on the foundation of being a security initiative and not a IT automation thing. So that's a brief about myself. The topic of today, it's about what the market defines identity threat detection and response. And I want to talk about it from the point of view of a company where I'm an investor, which is called Sherlock. So who is Sherlock? First of all, it's a team of people that are coming from our previous venture, Cross Ideas, that we sold to IBM. So we are identity-centric or identity-minded guy. It's a privately owned, self-funded company. So we have no VC. We just fund the company ourselves. And we have a very simple mission, at least a starting point. We wanted to make behavioral anomaly detection the new normal for digital security. So that's a very broad statement. So at the core of the company, there is a massive investment we have put to really find anomalous behaviors, which are, for us, the only way to really manage a security posture that can adapt over time. So we don't sell that. So that's the engine. So what we do is we collect human and application telemetry, and we provide a first product, so to say, which operates in this domain of identity threat detection and response, which is going to be illustrated today. But there is a second line out of the same engine, which is apparently disconnected from the previous one, which is protecting Kubernetes environment. There is a strong connection between the two, and it all goes with the idea that you have identities, humans on machines, accessing applications, and these applications are more and more running on the cloud in this very important infrastructure, which is called Kubernetes. So there is a method to the madness of doing this stuff. But again, what I want to talk to you today, it's our interpretation of ITDR. So first of all, ITDR was introduced as a term by Gartner end of last year, and it's built on the idea that the identity management system themselves are a very precious holy grail of information, which are typically abused for account takeover or anything which has to deal with security breaches that are typically starting from an account or a password which is being taken over by a bad guy or maybe a former good guy. Now, the first question is, how can ITDR really help identity and access management? So if you look at today identity access management, it typically works with the principle of granted trust. So there is a lot of prescription in the system. I mean, that group of people can only do this and that. So it's prescriptive. And you know that by heart if you're an identity management guy. A bunch of roles, sophisticated role model, managing entitlements. So there is a lot of prescription and very little, almost nothing, the ability to detect that something went wrong and react. So we believe that ITDR that will provide to the IAM of tomorrow a better balance between prescribing and detecting. And that will be cheaper and faster. Let me make a very simple example. If you build a role model which has 5,000 items compared to a role model which is more coarse-grained, that's easier to build and maintain, and you keep the focus on detecting anomalous behaviors and reacting on that instead of trying to prescribe everything or to boil the ocean with rules and roles. Now, there is another interpretation of what ITDR is, and that's more personal to me, which I think that ITDR, it's the translation layer between the world of identity management with its different products. So you have the identity governance, the privilege, the access, connecting cloud applications and on-premise application, and you know by heart that they have different requirements, with the word that at the moment is quite separate of security operation, which is dealing with the idea of finding, detecting, and responding to threats that might be coming from cloud workloads, from the network, from the endpoint. So ITDR, it's really the Rosetta Stone, if you like, the translation layer. But translating what? Well, first of all, the world of identity provides a lot of information about anomalies. But the reality is these anomalies are not consumable, digestible, manageable by the security operation team with their SOC or extended detect and respond platform. So you need something which is distilling the complexity of a word, the word of IAM as surrounding application, to what? To providing one more type of threat, which is the identity threat. So then the team of security can correlate an identity threat, maybe there is potential data exfiltration, with something resulting as an anomaly from an endpoint, or maybe something out of the network. So we're trying really to take the Berlin Wall down between these two worlds that at the moment are pretty much separate as buying center and behavior, so to say. So what do we do at Sherlock? Well, simply said, we take on one side the user activity of any user, privileged employee, gig workers out of business applications, and I'll make an example out of that. But also we take the audit logs out of the IAM system, the access management, the identity governance, or the privilege, and essentially we find habits. And what we mean by habits is that we observe any identity. Identity can be a human, can be a machine, can be any object that has a pattern of behavior, and we find anomalies on the individual baseline of behavior. We correlate them, and we respond to the several anomalies that are forming a threat via a playbook. And the remediation, and that's quite unique in the world of ITDR, if you find a potential data exfiltration or an account takeover, any risk can be remediated in the IAM platform itself. So that's very important, and I'll make an example out of that. Our belief is that if you really want to find identity-centric threats, you must correlate anomalies, not just from IAM platform, but also looking at what that maybe stolen account is doing on SAP or on Microsoft 365. And also Gartner says that it's not just monitoring Active Directory or the IAM endpoints that will make you fulfill the promise of an identity threat detection and response system. So let me illustrate a very simple scenario that we encounter very often. So on the business side of the equation, you have Microsoft 365 or G Suite. And the access side, you might have Okta, OneLogin, and the VPN. So we take all these user activity data out of these two words. We do the ingestion of data. We learn, okay? We are a machine learning based type of product, and we find habits. And based on those habits, we find anomalies. We correlate them, and we do the remediation. So what type of threats that are the correlation of many anomalies we typically detect? They can be both external, quintessentially account identity takeover, or internal. So the malicious insider, or maybe a compliance violation, for us it's an insider threat resulting of anomalies which look more in the second chapter. So even the distinction between someone attacking you from the outside, or the malicious employee are starting to blur when you start observing behaviors and anomalies of behaviors. Where is the remediation taking place? Well, you can send this potential account identity takeover threat information to the security operation team, but you can also do very specific things, because when you find an identity-centric threat, you know the identity, you know the account information, and instant remediation is to go, for example, on OneLogin or Active Directory or Okta and log the user off or block it. So the beauty of ITDR is that we can provide information to security guys, but also close the loop internally and provide a posture of identity management which is more robust in the direction of a zero trust architecture. Now, how do you implement ITDR? The reality, and also the analysts say that, you can't define what is right as what is wrong with using rules. The quintessential or typical example is 3 failed logins is an habit for me, Andrea. For anyone else, the habit of failed login is 0. So you can't, what is the rule that you're putting? The threshold, 3, 0, 1. The reality is you need to observe individual anomalies. And what we mean by anomaly is that you really need to monitor any habits on human, but also on application. How can you monitor the behavior of certain attributes of the VPN or SAP? For us, it doesn't change much. It's an entity that we monitor. You also need to build indicators of behaviors that are flexible and unsupervised, meaning that they can learn regardless of the data set that you're feeding them with. We operate in an environment where the data set that we are ingesting are from different platforms and different applications. And another key thing about indicators of behavior is they must look at personal baseline. So if a company has 2 employees, well, each employee has its own set of baselines. So it doesn't matter with the size of the target of users that you're serving. The second requirement is that you can't just, as I said at the beginning, you can't just look to the IAM platform themselves and look to anomalies of anomalous activities of admins into the Okta platform, but you also need to look what that suspicious account or identity is doing on the business application where that the identity management platform is typically integrating. That can be Salesforce, SAP, or very typical Microsoft 365. So in order to address that, on top of this beautiful engine that looks at behavior and anomalies and threats resulting out of many anomalies, we built a template, essentially, which is called the ITDR reference model. It's a collection of pre-built IOBs, that stands for indicators of behavior, threat models, and the way you react to threats, so playbook. And we have built that integrating and building anomaly detection for business applications that are sitting on the top, like Salesforce, Box, Slack, Microsoft 365, SAP, and so forth. And we have done the same with the typical identity management platforms that are sitting in the identity governance, access management, and privileged access management type of 3 domains. So that is a bit it about ITDR. I'm trying to keep it short. It's a video, it's an online session, so it can't be too long. So I hope I gave you a bit of a feeling of, again, what we do. And so again, if you have to remind what Sherlock is about, we've put a great deal of effort in developing a phenomenal behavioral anomaly detection engine. But honestly, that cares for being efficient in the 2 set of capabilities that we have built on top. Identity threat detection and response is what we have been describing today, but the other one, which I briefly described at the beginning, it's the ability to look at infrastructure telemetry, especially in the world of Kubernetes. Why? And I want to repeat that again. In a world where a lot of workloads and applications are built on Kubernetes, combining the ability to detect anomalies and threats on the full chain of identities, applications / APIs / microservices, and the underlying infrastructure. It's key to complete the picture of an identity-centric security posture. That is it. 9 charts. I hope that you appreciate the message. In case you want to reach out, info@sherlock.ai, it's the email, but you can also derive the URL address from it, or otherwise, my email is very simple, andrea.rossi@sherlock.ai. And with that, I wish you all the best and have a good day or afternoon, depending on where this video is broadcasted in. Thank you. Ciao. Bye-bye.